Good morning, everyone, as you guys are all joining. Hope everyone's doing fine. Everybody give me a wave or a wink or an elbow or a ankle hitter. Type in where you're joining us from in the chat box. It's great to see everyone today, to connect and to continue to be lifelong learners and to take a little time out of our day to continue learning. I'm going to wait here for just a couple more seconds for a few others to join us. My business partner, Amy Cohen, is also joining us today. She will be managing our chat box. If you guys have any questions, any comments, any shout outs, any venting, whatever's going on in your life, you can type away. That's what we're here for. And Amy will read the questions off or comments as we go. But today we're gonna jump right in, and we are going to continue talking about leading through a crisis, part 3, which is I decided to go with the theme of the impact that hope and resilience as leaders have on ourselves and our peoples and our organizations. And so leading with grace through a crisis and the impact of hope and resilience. That's really going to be our theme today. I chose hope and resilience. I'm a coach. I've been a coach my entire life, from the sports world to the boardroom. And now that I'm in this world and off the court, you realize some of these things that you study and you get certifications for. I've got a certification in positive psychology and well-being, but I was doing that my entire life as a coach. We wore so many different hats where you are trying to get the most out of your individuals and your teams. And there's so much around what we do as leaders, leaders or coaches and individuals around positive psychology and our mindset. So the more that I'm in this world in the boardroom, the more that I have really kind of honed in that I am a coach that really coaches my clients and individuals' mindsets on really how we frame things, how we look at things, how we think of things. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through here on how you should be as leaders, leading your team with grace through a crisis. And it's even more difficult now because you're leading your people and your teams, behind a screen and Zoom. So it makes it much, much harder. And so before I kind of get in to talk about the impact of hope and resilience, as leaders and individuals, it's not a time to hold back with your people. It's not a time to hold back with your people. We need to be sending our teams and our people updates, regular communication. If there's not a lot of new information, it's just the message can be extremely personal. People are feeling worried. People are feeling isolated. So over communication should not be a worry for you with your organizations and with your teams at this point, because it's more important than ever before. And it's more difficult for leaders to be able to communicate behind the screen because you're just so used to being present with your teams. So we're really going to jump right in, and I was able to get my certification through the National Board of Medical Examiners by physicians around well-being, around positive psychology, around its very high level of health providers, to really dive into hope, flow, resilience, well-being, really kind of what all of those mean. So first we're going to jump in and really you really kind of look at this through a hope and resilience standpoint. Is really, we define as leaders, and people ask me all the time, that they're like, Coach Pam, what is one word that you can use when you think of leadership? And there are so many words out there. There's so many words for leadership. And the more that I've been in this, and the longer that I have been coaching and leading people, leading organizations, and now helping others sitting in that chair, is I really define leadership as influence. And now more than ever before, that we need to be leaning on this, that influence to help people during this time of not just change. Everybody was in a world of constant change, constant disruption, because our industries continue to change and be complex in many different ways. But this is massive change. This is massive change. And so what can we do as leaders to continue to add value? So what can we do as leaders to continue to add value to our teams during this uncertain time? And as we all, and I think, take a look at ourselves and what we're doing as we're leading people, and also we can pass this on to our teams, as we all continue to assess really kind of the new reality now, and the new reality as we get through this. Really, many people are using self-assessments. They are assessing themselves. They are asking their teams to assess themselves. And self-assessments are an extremely valuable tool for leaders to reflect on their own leadership and really to learn more about themselves. And when you look at this picture on here is, you know, I saw this picture and I'm like, this is really best case scenario in a normal world, is how we influence through communication and connectedness from the top down and a top across, and also from the bottom up as well. That I would actually change these arrows if I was able to draw them, to put arrows on both ends, because that's really how I feel that we all influence within organizations today. But really, how do we influence from the top with our executive teams, with our leadership teams, our management teams, our teams below them, and how are we influencing, you know, through this massive change reality that we're in right now, with the cadence throughout our organizations, and how are we expressing and passing on that hope and resilience, not just for me as a leader and for my team at the top, but what does the cadence look like throughout the organization with how we're communicating, how we're connecting, you know, through this. So as we learn more about ourselves as leaders, and I want to talk a little bit about ourselves first, you know, learning more about ourselves through these self-assessments. You know, I've actually talked to a lot of people in the last just few days, and there's people that are assessing themselves. There are people that were actually in the middle of starting a new business before all this started, just a couple of weeks ago. There were people stepping into new leadership positions with new companies and new jobs, and this was like, bam, this hit them right upside the head. There were people in the middle of already restructuring their companies, from the top down and across and the bottom up. People were restructuring their companies before this hit. People were planning to retire. They had a 1-year window, a 2-month window, on the planning on retiring. There were people that were that were just stepping into, and this was a conversation that I had yesterday with an individual, you know, out of Michigan, and there was an individual that just stepped into a CE role a month ago. And so the first time that they've been a CEO.
I just logged on to this.
Can we put our mics on, please? I think, Tina, that's you. Thank you. So there's an individual that just stepped into a brand new CE role, never been a CEO before, 1 month ago. And we all know how much you have to learn, that skill set that you jump from another position to a CEO, and then this happens. You know, there's shifts that businesses were making. I've talked to people that were going through a merger and acquisition. I talked to an individual that just sold their company, and now they've got new leadership, and all of their employees are under brand new leadership. So just imagine all of the worry, the angst, the trust, the anxiousness that people have, and it's really forcing people to really, you know, think out of the box, hopefully, and really kind of look at, you know, maybe new business models moving forward. And so how can we make, you know, the complexity that we're all going through right now, you know, right as leaders, continuing to obviously listen, be right there alongside people, providing help, being creative, as leaders also asking for help. It is so hard for leaders to ask for help, and now, like, no one has all the answers. Being able to, to ask, for help as well is really, really important. We talked a little bit already about self-assessments. I want to talk a little bit about hope, and because there is a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of worriness, there's a lot of stress. Like I said, I spent a lot of time with clients in the last couple of days, and a team, and these are some of the comments that I heard is, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So these are some of the comments that I'm actually, as a coach, and I'm listening to my clients, and I'm listening to, they are high level leaders that are running companies, that are in front of university student bodies and professors and physicians and scientists. Those are my clients, and so I'm hearing from them that they're able to now talk to me about it as their coaches. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, or I am really, really worried. What's next? I'm not so sure I trust our leadership. The change is going so fast. I heard another comment that I'm not going to see the Final Four this year. Those are all comments that people are having, and people are worried about their people, their teams, their companies. And, many people are taking 20% pay cuts. Many people, I think this morning that we have we're over 6 million in unemployment. So there's so much worry. So as leaders, is how can we continue to pass on, that hope to people? Hope creates life satisfaction, and it's a buffer against the impact of negative and stressful life events. So we as leaders have to continue to be able to provide hope to ourselves, provide hope to our families, be able to provide hope to our teams and our organizations. And in doing this, there's so many positive effects on our mood and our overall functioning as human beings. And we have better physical and mental outcomes when we can really apply that hope to ourselves, and also be able to communicate that hope to our teams as well. Then we go on to resilience. And these are some of the people that I actually have worked with that are on the front lines in New York City. They've got at least 15%, if not more than that, out of the police force now with the virus, or they have called in sick as well. Can we make sure that we mute our mics, please? Thank you. But being resilient is the effect. The more that we strengthen our resilience and develop our resilience, that has such a positive effect with depression and the impact that we have on stress. So stress management, it increases our quality of life, and the increased levels of hope is around emotional regulation. That emotional self-awareness that we have around ourselves is really developing that resilience. So it also increases our confidence and our self-esteem, and really those things that are going on in our mind. So really the key role to, if we have lower levels of hope, those are associated with, and if anybody is actually feeling this right now, or you are sensing this in your teams or your people or in your conversations, those lower levels of hope that maybe we're not creating those high level of hopes, is associated with those depressive feelings. So depression, it's around mental illness, mental health, and which if we can really boost up the resilience, our moods, and our hope, we really can combat some of those things that maybe some of your people are feeling now, or in a week or 2 weeks, or once we get through this. We're going to have a lot of things that we need to do as leaders that might not be part of the business processes, but it's around the people. So how can we strengthen some of these things? How can we strengthen hope? How can we strengthen experiencing that sensation of hoping or that hope. But research shows that once we start thinking about hope and we start developing that hope, that brain pumps out certain chemicals in our body that gives us those feelings of hope, that gives us more resilience as well. And some of those ways, I'm going to give us 2 ways today that we really can develop and we can increase those levels of hope and release some of those chemicals in our brain, is really encouraging leaders, number one, us, but everyone else, positive attitudes around everything that we're doing. And one is shutting off the news and maybe just kind of catching a glimpse of it at the end of the day to find out really what's going on or what we should be doing, but really creating those positive attitudes throughout our day that really shifts your mind, it shifts your brain. And those are positive attitudes around your family. And I'll share some of the things that I'm doing as well as keeping your house light, keeping your house fun, keeping it active, keep hopping around your house. I've created a little bit of cadence with my family. My parents and my siblings don't live in the area that I live in. So I Zoom with my family every other day for an hour in the evening. We all hop on at 8 p.m. at night and we're on until 9 p.m. So we have a little cadence with my family, creating those positive attitudes. I consider myself a very optimistic and positive person with a pretty strong mindset, and I believe that we can get through anything. My family's not the same way. We're all different, and being able to check in with them, be positive, giving them hope, making sure they're behaving and not running around town. But you can do a lot of those things to create those positive attitudes every single day. And so that's one with your family. What are you doing to create positive attitudes around your family as a leader? Being able to exercise. Again, there's so many chemicals that pumps out of your brain and into your brain when we exercise, going for a walk. Many people that are not used to working from home are sitting in their chair all day long. And we all know that, the times that we work from home, people's bodies are hurting from sitting. Sitting is the new smoking, and people's bodies are hurting. You got to get up and move every once in a while. Run up and down the stairs, run outside, walk down to the mailbox, do whatever you need to do to get a little exercise and get up and move. That really creates those positive attitudes as well. Just really being able to really understand what our purpose is and creates a positive attitude, our purpose and the meaning that we have, moving forward and helping others or being kind or giving of ourselves or doing things like these podcasts for people. Amy and I are doing 4 days a week. Being able to celebrate the smallest wins. And I think I talked to a couple clients yesterday that were having a difficult time. And they're like, we can't find anything positive right now. We're so worried. There's nothing positive to talk to about our teams or the people that we work with. And I'm like, well, let's take a step back and let's celebrate the smallest wins, because we get to the end of the day and we look at everything's been negative and everything has been whatever it is, there's nothing, the smallest. And when you look at that list, whether it's got one thing or 10 things on there, that you're able to be a little more resilient, to be a little more hopeful that, hey, there was some positive things today. I did do some positive things. Being able to help others, dropping off some chocolate chip cookies on your neighbor's porch. As soon as I get off this podcast today, I was actually going through our basement the other day, probably looking for a bottle of wine, to be honest with you, and in my wine cellar. And when I moved from Minneapolis out here to the East Coast of Pennsylvania, we had all kinds of stuff in our house. And so we were able to purge a whole bunch of things. But one thing that we did keep, and I have no idea how we bought these N95 masks, a whole box of them. So we had a box of 11 to 12 N95 masks from 3M. I mean, they're the heavy duty ones. they are the ones when you put them on your face, because I tried one on when we've all seen pictures of physicians that have taken their masks off after a full day and they looks like their faces are bruised. Well, this is one of those masks. And I'm actually getting in the car and driving these down to the hospital down in Hershey, Pennsylvania this afternoon. And I have a client that is a physician scientist, and I text her last night and I'm like, they just set up a brand new COVID-19 clinic down in Hershey, Pennsylvania, part of the College of Medicine for Penn State. And I'm driving these masks down. I've got 12 of them. And I said, I'm going to throw them out my window onto your front porch. But I feel like that's just a little way for me to be able to give, to help to this brand new COVID-19 clinic that they just have up and running. I think today's the first day that they've opened it up for anybody that's got the virus is in this clinic. That these physicians, my client and her peers have set up down there very quickly. So I feel like that's part of my positive attitudes and being able to help and give back in such a small way. So make sure that we are really, around our mindset and developing that hope and that resilience and being able to, have those positive attitudes and staying positive. But as leaders, how can we pass that on to our people and our organizations as well? So the next one, the second one, is around one of my most favorite topics to speak on. I do keynote speaking engagements. I do lots of training just around optimism. So really that optimistic outlook is one of the greatest ways to strengthen and increase your levels of hope and resilience. This is all based on research and emotional intelligence. And, the more that we develop optimism, it really can increase our well-being. It decreases our level of depression or mental illness or mental health is really increasing, the optimism within our mind, and really kind of how we look at the past, how we look currently, and then really kind of how we look at the future with our goals and aspirations. So some things that we can do around this, I gave you some tools around how to build those positive attitudes as well. And there's so many different ones is, strengths and where do you get your energy, but to develop higher levels of optimism and having optimistic outlooks is find the good in this. And I really believe that things happen for a reason. Sometimes we don't know it at the time that, why is this happening? Why is this happening now? Something like at this magnitude hasn't happened, since World War II or before in 1918 when the bird flu was around. Like, why is this happening now? And I truly believe that, things happen for a reason, and we don't know what that is right now. Whether it's for ourselves, for us to build resilience, for us to be more hopeful, for us to change the way that we work, change the way that, it gets us out of our comfort zones. We have to change what our business models are. We have to take a step back, and it improves our family happiness. We become closer to our colleagues, and our culture changes within the workplace because of something like this. There's a reason why. I've seen so many people run by my window. I have a window that outlooks right here on the road, and I don't think I've seen so many people working out, running, walking their kids, playing with their kids. I see grown men that I know that they work about 12 or 14-hour days. They've got huge jobs. I have football coaches at Penn State that live across the street from me, and they're never home. They're out walking, they're out running, they're spending time with their families. So I really believe that the health in our world might be a little bit better, or the obesity level might be down a little bit because people are working out more. But I just really, truly believe that things happen for a reason. We don't know why yet, but I truly believe in that. So some ways to really increase your levels of optimism is really celebrating and pointing out all of the great accomplishments that you've done in the past, and journal those. And there should be a long list of things that you've accomplished in the past, and you can celebrate. whether it was promotions or graduation or your marriage or your having your kids, or you're able to get certified in this, or whatever that is being able to journal those positive things that have happened in your past, the things that you can celebrate now, the positive things that you're in now or you're doing. And then also being able to look at, what your goals are, doing some goal setting and what your aspirations are after we get through this. And I say this all the time, that this is a window of our lives. This is a small window of our lives. We will get through this. And so what are we doing now to increase those levels of hope and those resilience that really helps our overall mental wellness, our executive wellness, our outlook on life, our overall happiness. But this is one way that you can increase your levels of those optimistic outlooks and your hope. And I would say give this to your teams as well. Give this to your teams. Everybody's looking for, how can I help my team? What are some things that we can do? Sometimes it's okay, especially now, to put all your business stuff aside. Yes, you need to keep people moving forward, productive, engaged. But these are also some of the things that your people need right now, because people are worried and very anxious. So I'll just repeat what I said, because it's one way that you can increase optimism levels and hope levels of hope is write down and journal all the successes that you've had in the past. And there should be countless things. It shouldn't be one or two, but it should be 10 to 15 different things. We've all had very successful lives. What are those accomplishments and those things now? And what are our goals and aspirations that we have into the future? And we've got to be able to look into the future. That is hope. That is what we're very hopeful for, and that's staying resilient. So again, those goals and aspirations. Another one that I talk about all the time, and the second one I'll share with everyone, and then I'll open this up for some questions here in a couple minutes, is those things that we can be grateful for. It's probably hard to find things that we're very grateful for right now, other than the times that we're able to be at home and to find the comfort of our homes. But developing those grateful thoughts. This is another one through research on how we can increase our levels of hope and increase our levels of optimism, our well-being, is finding those things that we are extremely grateful for right now. As leaders, I'd like to share, really the language that we use really matters to our teams. And, when I talk about being grateful, it's the way that we communicate as leaders. It's the way that we message is really, really important to ourselves and also to our families and to our teams. So our language that we use matters. And so I'm going to give you some examples on how we can be hopeful, how we can have positive attitudes and positive messaging, and to stay optimistic, and to try to put a pretty little bow on some of our situations right now is really increasing that. But I'll give you 4 examples. So I look at this as an opportunity and not a hardship. So when we talk about this as an opportunity, we should talk about all the opportunities that we have right now within our own personal lives, but also an opportunity that we have with our teams as leaders. As leaders, you have an opportunity to influence and to make a greater impact than you ever have before. I know some of you that are on this call here are stepping into brand new jobs, and this was bam, hit you right upside the head. So this creates an opportunity and not necessarily a hardship for people. And getting people to understand and wrap their head around, how can this be an opportunity and not a hardship? So it's how we message as leaders. Another one is we are safe at home, not stuck at home. Some of us feel like we're stuck at home because we're used to traveling or we're used to being around people, but we are safe at home. We are safe at home, not stuck at home. And so again, it's how we message and how we provide those optimistic comments and messaging to people. Also, there are, what's our purpose? What is our purpose now and our new goals and some of the goal setting that we can do? And not that this is just terrible. this is absolutely terrible. Yes, it's terrible, but it's, again, it's how we message. Like we're in a crisis. This is terrible. But as leaders, it's how our language really matters and the language that we use. So what's our purpose here and what are our new goals moving forward? And I'll say the last one is we are comfortable at home. We're all comfortable at home instead of we're in lockdown. We're in a lockdown right now, but we're comfortable at home. So those are some of the things that we can use as far as some of our different language to be able to communicate with our team as well. Here's some of the benefits in strengthening our hope and also our resilience. The benefits are around peace and joy. So we will have more peace and joy in our life the more that we develop that hope and resilience around, those positive attitudes and optimism instead of turmoil. So the benefits are courage and strength. We become more courageous and we just become a stronger individual. We develop our endurance and our patience through all of this instead of quitting. That's part of, not quitting is you're a very hopeful and resilient. The last one is confidence. So as we really develop that confidence, and it really allows people to approach problems with a different mindset of strategy to success. What's our strategy to success? So we become more confident. We become a solution oriented. We become a problem solver because we just can't say, I quit, I give up. We're a leader. We're leading people. We're leading organizations. So these are the benefits that we have when we are developing and increasing our levels of hope and our resilience is more peace and joy, more courage and strength, more endurance and patience, and also it develops our confidence. But if we can do this, if we remember that first slide that I have, if we can influence as leaders and not just developing this in ourselves, but if we can affect 1 to 100 thousands of people and helping them through this, that they're going to be able to develop these 4 benefits also in their lives also. So I'd like you all to take a look at this. I like the little donkey. I like the unicorn. I feel like a lot of us are unicorns right now with a lot of the things that we're dealing with. I really believe that we are in our looking at our comfort zone or our growth goals. And I looked at this and I'm like, where am I? And I would challenge all of you to, to look at this, use this with your kids if you're homeschooling, use this with your teams, but have them take a look at this and really kind of where are we? And, I think I've moved through this rather quickly. The comfort zone is feeling safe and in control. Fear zone is the lack of self-confidence. We find excuses. We're affected by other people's opinions. I think I actually skipped over the fear zone. That's just me. I've actually moved through the learning zone as being able to deal with challenges and problems. I'm acquiring new skills for sure. I'm extending my comfort zone in many different ways. I'm through the learning zone through this period, and now it's finding purpose, living my dreams. I'm setting new goals. Just conquering objectives as well, finding new partnerships, finding a new way to do business, developing more processes, getting more organized, setting new goals for the year and beyond. So really looking at this as I'm going to grow through this. I'm going to get better through this. And that's just a mindset that I'm helping my clients and my teams as their virtual team coach to get to that growth zone where they are going to be able to, set those new goals through this. So I want to leave you with these questions here that you can use for your kids if you're homeschooling, also for yourself or for your team. When you're talking about hope, and we all need hope, and we're all trying to develop and increase our levels of hope. But what are your hope quotes? Find some hope quotes for yourself. Find some hope quotes for your team and for your kids, and to be able to talk about hope and developing that. What images inspire your hope? Have your kids go through magazines or have people come back and share a picture. Everybody's having Zoom meetings, and have people share a picture of what hope looks like for them. But to have pictures in their office or pictures in their wallets or pictures in whatever you have or your journals, those images that inspire your hope. And then the last thing is hopeful people who inspire you. Who are those people in your life that inspire you and give you hope for really getting through the now and really, what this all looks like moving forward. Surround yourself with those hopeful people. Those are the people that you need to be surrounding yourself with. So I challenge you, or use this for your kids. Many of you guys are homeschooling. You could have a whole hour session on teaching them hope and also resilience. Get some magazines out. Adults love to be kids as well, but this is a great way for all of us to increase those levels of hope, because again, the brain dumps those chemicals out and really increases those levels for us. So that's my the end here. Does anybody have any questions or any comments that Coach Amy, you're on the chat box, that you would like to ask or use for yourself or for your teams? This is something that I was certified in. I haven't really used it a lot. I've used a lot around optimism. I've used a lot around resilience. I haven't done as much coaching around hope until now. And so I pulled out a lot of my notes and some of my tools through some of my training, especially to use right now with my clients and my teams and the organizations that I'm working with. So I'll pause right there, and Coach Amy. Are there any questions? Coach Amy, are you still with us?
I am here.
Okay.
Yes. No, I don't see any questions at the moment.
Okay. Well, great. Any questions, any comments, any takeaways? Just type them in the chat box. Today is Thursday. Next week, we are going to be going back to 2 podcasts a week. So I will, Amy will be doing one. I will be doing the next. Watch your emails, watch social media. Coach Amy's focusing on career management, which is much needed right now, and what we can do to manage our careers after we get through this is being productive, being hopeful, being positive right now, and putting things in place. And I will continue on leading through a crisis with a lot of different things that we can do around our mindset. So thank you everyone for joining me today. I'm actually going to go hop in the car right now and drive down to Hershey, Pennsylvania to deliver some N95 masks for my clients, the physician and the scientist down there that opened up the new COVID-19 clinic. So it's my thing that I can do for my little part of giving back and being a small little helper in this whole process. So thank you all very much, and be well. If any of you have kids, we do some things online for kids. If you're interested in keeping your kids busy for 30 to 45 minutes, we do some leadership development and some mindset things around all of this with kids. So reach out to me if you want more information. I know I have a lot of clients' kids that are on these calls. We've been hitting about 150 kids a week, which has been great. But hope to see you all next week. So good luck and be well.